But those who did reach California saw breathtaking panoramas, lush valleys and long stretches of farmland. Their hopes were buoyed, then dashed. The land, they would soon discover, was already owned, and the owners didn't need steady work. They needed seasonal work. Often they didn't even need very many workers at all. These newcomers, called Okies or Arkies or Texies, depending on where they came from, were rarely welcomed. In fact, they were met with resentment.
The reason they weren't received too well was that they were willing to take work and undercut the workers that were in a certain area.
Desperate to make money, the migrant workers would work for less than the local workers. And with so many migrant workers willing to work for low wages, the local workers found themselves out of work. They looked at the migrants as enemies rather than the victims that they were.
The migrant workers had simply been displaced from their communities. I think we tend to think of them all coming from the Dust Bowl because of John Steinbeck's great novel, The Grapes of Wrath. But people were displaced from factory towns in Pennsylvania and various other areas, and they simply were looking for jobs. Since there was no work and the unemployment rates were so high in the area that they came from, rumors would spread that a factory in another area of the country was hiring, and hundreds would show up for what would amount to 20 jobs or something like this.
And the work that they did manage to find was difficult, demanding, and dangerous.
They got the lowest paid work. There wasn't a minimum wage until 1937. So employers could afford to hire them for as cheap as possible in terms of factory work, if there was factory work, or unloading docks or unloading barges or trucks or things of this nature.
The most abundant work was on farms that had not yet been mechanized.
They harvested crops, they helped with the planting. There was a whole group that followed the harvest.
Entire families worked in the fields, fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters. Children worked right alongside their parents. Even grandparents took work if they could find it. As many as 2 million men, women, and children moved from farm to farm, cutting cane, digging potatoes, and picking peaches, apples, oranges, grapes, peas, and cotton. Sometimes they were paid a daily rate, maybe $1 if they were lucky. Other times they'd be paid for the amount of fruit picked, maybe a nickel a bushel. In either case, the pay was low, far less than what a family needed for basic survival. When one job would end, they took to the road again, looking for another. Some families traveled more than 500 miles in a single year. Sickness and death followed the workers wherever they went. One year, nearly 50 babies died in one county alone during just one picking season. Children in Tulare County, California, were dying at the rate of 2 a day.